Hey everybody, I just wanted to get on here and talk about my blog that I wrote called Grief Does Not Equate Lack of Faith. And I wanted to share 3 points from that blog that I wrote. But before we get into it, first of all, if you have not read it, go to my Facebook page. You will find it there. You can also go to the website Jazz, Jaz, and Jazz, Jas.com and click on Matters of the Heart. That is my blog name. You will find it there. So if you haven't read it, one, please go read it. If you have read it, thank you so much for the support and all the kind words and the love and the encouragement that you've given me. It does not go unnoticed. I very much appreciate it. Your feedback is letting me know that people need to hear about grief and that there's an audience for it, and which is what I was praying for. So, getting into it, the 3 points that I have. The first point that the Lord dealt with me about when I was going through this grief is loss is not grief. Loss and grief are not the same. They're not synonymous. They are two different things. Grief is the natural response or the reaction to loss. And I didn't realize that. And so that affected how I behaved. I didn't understand that how I grieved or the intensity of the grief was predicated on the size of the loss. And so in my case, I was trying to grieve the loss of my loved ones the same way I grieved losing a friend or losing a car. It's not to say that losing the car or losing the friends weren't hard for me. I did have to grieve losing those friends or losing the car, but it wasn't the same intensity as losing a loved one. And so by me trying to grieve the same way, I wasn't being effective. And so that really led me to live in a state of denial because I wasn't dealing with the grief the way I needed to live or the way I needed to. And so I was living in a way of where I wanted my life to stay the same. I didn't want anything to change. I didn't want to accept the fact that the dynamics of my life had changed once my granddad and my mom had died. And then I had to deal with the fact that our family experienced cumulative grief, which means that our granddad died and 4 months later, mom died. So we didn't even have time to fully grieve one death before we got another death. And so I'm going through this cumulative grief and I'm still trying to live my life the same way. I'm still trying to have all the same holidays the same way. I'm still trying to, power through Mother's Day and power through Thanksgiving and power through Christmas. And like nothing had changed. And it was not working at all. It just wasn't working. I wasn't ready to accept the fact that I needed to embrace what my life was going to be like post those deaths and realize that I was grieving the loss of loved ones and also grieving the life that I used to live. And so because I wasn't understanding really loss and grief, God led me to point number 2, which was be honest. It seems so simple, but it really wasn't for me. It was not simple for me at all. Reason being is because I felt like I couldn't grieve because the loved ones that I had lost were all saved. They all knew Jesus. They had all been baptized and filled. And so because they all made it to where we're all trying to get to, I felt like, who am I to complain or who am I to say anything when, they died saved? And I'm so thankful for that fact. But what I didn't realize was in this life, we still have to live in our flesh. And so I wasn't dealing with the reality of the fact that, yes, I'm glad they're going to see the Lord when they wake up. But I also have to deal with the fact that the reality of they're not here right now. I have to live my life every day like they aren't here. They're not coming back. They're not on vacation. They have died. But I wasn't allowing myself to realize that fact. And so because I wasn't being honest, it really it hindered me. It really put me in a place where I just wasn't able to really move forward. It felt like I was suspended in air, like I was floating in water, like I had become stagnant. And it got to the point of where I was having a conversation with my best friend. I love her to pieces. She just flat out told me, Jasmine, you're not handling this well. You're not grieving. You're completely becoming a new person. And I couldn't argue with her. I couldn't fight it. I couldn't do anything because in myself, I knew that the grief was, I was allowing the grief to change me. But until she said it to me, I could stay in that level, in that denial. I could keep trying to power through and act like nothing had changed until she brought it to my attention. Once she brought it to my attention, now I'm responsible for it. Now it's like, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to allow this grief to hinder you, or are you going to finally deal with it? So I finally decided that I was ready to deal with it. I was ready to figure out what I was feeling. I was ready to figure out how to move forward. I was ready to figure out how to live my life. And so I had to get to the point of where I was honest with God, I was honest with myself, and I was honest with everyone around me about my feelings, that I was sad, I was angry, I was upset, I was bitter, I was depressed. I had all of these emotions. And then I had to realize that some of those emotions I was feeling were directly aimed at God. I was upset at him because he took these people from me. This is what I felt like. You took them from me. You could have healed them. They were both sick. You could have healed them. You could have done X, Y, and Z. And because I feel like you're the source of my pain, I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm not going to pray to you. I'm not going to seek the scriptures. I'm not going to do anything because I'm mad at you. Once God helped me realize that that's how I felt towards him, then I could really, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And then God could help me because I was like, then I could repent and I could deal with where I was at, and I could tell God, okay, this is where I am, but I don't want to be here anymore. I need you to help me. I was to that point of where I was ready for God to help me grieve and to show me how to grieve and to teach me and search the scriptures and see what it said about grief. Because once I got to that point and I realized that I needed to embrace it, then God led me to point number 3, which was grief does not equate lack of faith. Because I was grieving and because I was crying and because I was sad, it did not mean that I didn't love God. It didn't mean that I didn't trust him. It did not mean that I wasn't saved. It did not mean any of those things that I thought. It didn't mean that I couldn't say that I was upset and that I was mad and that I was depressed, because we know as saints and as Christians, there's a stigmatism that we can't be real about our feelings. We can't say that I'm depressed. We can't say that I'm upset. We can't say any of that, because then it means that we're not saved. But God really dealt with me about the fact that I had to be honest, because I am in my flesh, and because I am speaking it now, I'm taking the power away from those feelings, and now I can focus on God and how he can help me. And so then I was able to search the scriptures, and I was able to get in the word, and I was able to see what the word said about grief and how the Lord could help me. And he took me to Psalms. There was so much in Psalms that I needed during that time, all those answers that I was seeking for, and those words that I meant and that I needed, that I was trying to find people to give to me, but they couldn't say it. It was already in the word. God had already promised that he would be there for me. He promised that he would heal my broken heart. He promised that he would comfort me. He promised that when my flesh and my heart fail, he is my strength and my heart and my portion forever. All of this was already in the word. But Shalonda, did this go with your... Yeah, this is in my blog. It's on my page. You can go find it. It's there. Like, all of this is in the blog. I'm just expounding on it some more. So Shalonda, go to my page. You will see it. It's there. But then I could really get to the point of where I could let the word be effective in my life. I could let God be God in my life, and I could let him show me and lead me and guide me through this grief and this loss that I had never experienced before. And so I could see God in a new light. I could see him be something in my life that he had never been before. I could see him, I could feel him comfort me and encourage me and pour back into me and encourage me and get me back to the place of where I could effectively minister and be there. You're welcome. Be there for the people that I needed to be, because I had gotten to the point of where I was coming to church and I was worshiping and I was praising, but I wasn't doing it the way that I desired to. I couldn't pray like I desired. I couldn't worship like I desired. I couldn't lead praise and worship the way I desired, because I had allowed this grief to just hinder me and just keep me bound and locked up. I was bound, and God had already freed me. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. But I allowed myself to be a slave and be bound to this grief because I didn't want to be honest. So once I was started to just move past it, then God told me that I was successfully grieving. And so that is my prayer. That is my desire for those of you who have experienced any level of grief, any type of grief. It doesn't have to be loss of loved ones. It could be a job, retirement, kids moving out of the house. For those of us who have graduated, if we've graduated college and we don't have a job offer, anything we need to grieve, we have to do it successfully, because that is the only way we are able to move and operate and live life. We can't just cope. God doesn't want us to just cope. He wants us to live. He wants us to be prosperous. He wants us to be in good health. And we can only do that if we continue to look to him for our strength and for our encouragement. We can't encourage ourselves. We can't save ourselves. We can't do any of this. So I had to take off the mask. I had to stop being fake. I had to stop putting on the front like everything is okay, like Jasmine's all right. I had to get to the point of where I was like, no, I'm not okay today, and that's okay. Yes, I'm going to bust out crying just because I thought about my mom, but that's okay. On the flip side of that, though, I also had those days where I was like, I had those great thoughts about my mom, those great thoughts about my granddad. But until I started successfully grieving, anytime I thought about them, I bust out crying. Now I can enjoy those thoughts. I can enjoy those memories because I'm not depressed and I'm not sad and I'm not in that place anymore. But it only happened through this revelation that God gave me, that loss and grief aren't the same, and that I had to be honest with my feelings, and that I had to realize that grief did not mean that I didn't love God and that I didn't understand what he did. So my prayer and my encouragement is for everybody to seek God and to let God be God in your life. Search the scriptures, see what it says about grief, see what it says about God encouraging us and being there for us. And when it gets too heavy for us, we can cast our cares and our burdens on him because he loves us and he cares for us. And all these wonderful things that we have to first open up our hearts and allow God to do it for us, because he's a gentleman and he will never force himself on us. So until we get to the point of where we want to accept his help and we want to seek him, we literally make him unable to be God and be all those promises that he laid out in his word for us. So that is what I wanted to say. That is what I wanted to leave with you all. That was my encouragement for you all. I hope that it encourages you all. Please share it, like it, so that other people can see it. Again, one, if you haven't read the blog, it's on my page, so go ahead and find it. Two, when you read it, like, comment, and share it so other people can see it. And three, I have been so honored and blessed to be a part of a youth service at Christ the Rock Apostolic Church in Flint, Michigan, October 30th at 5:30. They have asked me to be on their panel for the youth service. I would love if you are available to come out so I could see you in person, meet you if I haven't already, get some more feedback from you on the blog. So that would be great. Those are my 3 things for you to do when this ends. Also, the blog that I have, I plan to update it every Thursday as the Lord leads me. But be sure to look out for it. I will post it, or you can keep looking at the website for the updates. But yeah, that was what I wanted to come on here and share with you all. I know it's late, but I really needed to get that off my chest. Thank you so much for listening and for taking out your time to watch. I love you all so much. Please be encouraged. I really want you to successfully grieve, successfully let God be God in your life. I love you all. Have a great night. Be blessed in Jesus' name.